Welcome, Impactful Parents. It's time for the Impactful Parenting Podcast, where I give you parenting tips and resources to make you a more impactful parent to your school-age child. I am your host, Kristina Campos. Saying, it's fine. Today, we're ending survival mode, parents. I have author Katie K. May, and she joins us to break down her book, You're on Fire, It's Fine. And we're diving into the firefighting strategies that every parent needs to de-escalate the drama and finally reconnect. So if your household feels one spark away from an explosion, then this episode is for you. Hello, my name is Kristina Campos, and I'm founder of The Impactful Parent. I help parents of school-age children who want to be one step ahead of their kids to turn their chaos into connection with their adolescent. I'm a mom of four, a teacher that's taught every grade from preschool through high school. And today I help moms and dads like yourself to navigate that exhausting, confusing, frustrating, but rewarding world of parenting. So welcome to The Impactful Parent. And today I have that special guest, Katie May. Katie is a licensed therapist, the founder of Creative Healing Teen Support Centers. And as a national speaker and trainer, she empowers parents and professionals to radically shift teen emotions and behaviors through proven and practical coping skills. So Katie is committed to helping teens feel accepted for who they are while teaching them skills to build a life that they love. And now her book, which is called You're on Fire, It's Fine. Katie is reaching out more and more to families that need her help regulating big emotions and understanding their teenagers. So thank you for being here to share your expertise, Katie.
Thanks, Kristina. That picture you painted at the beginning is something I see every day. So I love that we're diving into this topic.
You mentioned that many parents and teens feel like they are on fire, but they are saying, I'm fine. How can a parent distinguish between a teen who is truly managing stress and one who is masking a burnout?
Yeah. So when people say it's fine, it could be the teen themselves saying, I'm fine, leave me alone. Or it could be the parent saying, you're fine, and not seeing those signs. So understanding that when someone is on fire with their emotions, when a teen is all consumed with their emotions, it's burning them up inside, we are likely going to see that on the surface as behaviors to try and make that fire go out. So this might be impulsive and self-destructive behaviors on the surface. It could also be things like numbing out, scrolling social media, substance use. It could be more isolating. So when you ask the question, how would parents distinguish the difference? What I would ask is what they're observing in the home, and is it different than what they're typically seeing with their teenager?
When a teen is in the middle of these high emotion outbursts, parents have this natural instinct to fix it, just the way you had mentioned. Like, that's what we want to do. We see the behavior, we want to fix it. We don't like these behaviors, we want to make them stop. So what's one pattern interrupt that parents can actually use to de-escalate the room before the situation boils over?
Yes, we want to shift from fix it fast to validating before we offer any kind of solution. And so the shift that this is for parents is moving from it's okay, use your coping skills, you're fine, or even jumping in to try and support, to instead sitting back, leaning back, looking at your teen and being able to say, I see how hard this is for you right now. I see that you're struggling, or it makes sense that this is upsetting for you, which is, I think, counterproductive to what we're thinking is going to be helpful. Often parents fear leaning into the emotion. They're afraid it's going to make it worse, but that's really what makes the brain more flexible and open to problem solving or changing the behavior that the emotion is stemming from.
I love that you mentioned that parents often do that wrong. We avoid instead of lean in, because I think that's a really important distinguish to make for so many people who are listening to this right now who are scared of conflict. Hand raised right here. I don't like conflict. So if I think it's going to create more fire, then of course I'm going to avoid the subject. So this is a really good tip to allow parents to explore a different approach because obviously what you're doing right now, parents, probably is not working. So we're going to figure out, what do we got to do differently? And it might be scary, but I'm glad you mentioned it.
Yeah, well, I think it's the natural tendency to want to try and make that fire go out, to want to try and make the emotion go down. And yet you think about, you mentioned, well, parents, you're trying this and it might not be working anyway. If you're telling your teen, oh, go get a snack, go take a walk, you just need more movement, everything's okay. Is that working, or are you seeing that actually escalate the behavior? Because we have to remember that all behavior is communication. So what you're seeing your teen display in front of you is actually them trying to tell you something. So when you try and shut it down, you're shutting down the message and they feel unheard. So the behavior escalates.
Now, if a parent feels like they are also on fire during a conflict, which happens again all the time, we get triggered by our kids more than anybody else probably. How do you suggest they model that emotional regulation that they need so badly without looking like they're checking out of the conversation? Because we just mentioned that we don't want to do that.
Yeah, one of the things that I find myself saying often is that parents go first. So we need to model what we expect to see in our children. And this can be as simple as saying, hold on, I'm noticing myself get overwhelmed right now. I'm going to step away so that I can calm down and not say something that I regret. So we're modeling using our skills, taking a break, coming back when we're more regulated.
And I love that you mentioned that parents don't want to say the wrong things, because that's the next thing I want to talk about. We often, as parents, feel like we're speaking a completely different language than our teenagers. Mm-hmm. So how can parents shift their phrasing from integration to invitation when trying to find out what's actually going on?
Yeah, well, you mentioned that it feels like we're speaking a different language. And I would say that's true of all parents and teens. And it's especially true of what I call fire feelers, these very biologically sensitive, deeply feeling kids that may need something different than other kids, siblings, other people that we've interacted with. So what I would first lead with is that parents are going to say the wrong thing, even if they're trying to say the right thing. And that's okay. All we can do is continue to try, continue to learn the language of the kid in front of us. And so what we'll do is learn from what didn't work and improve upon that standpoint, and allow yourself to be corrected by your teen. If you got the words wrong, if you got the phrasing wrong, be open to hearing that and trying it a different way without shutting yourself down in the process.
I say that to my own kids quite a lot, where if I'm a little bit of emotionally unregulated myself, I kind of start my conversation with, I may not say everything right now because I'm a little crazy sometimes, but I'm going to do my best. And then I start that. I think it's important that our kids know that we don't say things right all the time. It's so hard. Yeah, it's so hard.
I think if we think about the idea of our job is to help raise independent, successful, fulfilled adults who are going to have relationships that are not going to be perfect, we need to also be okay with engaging in the relationship in an imperfect way to show them that it's okay, repair is okay, talking it through is okay. So these are all skillful ways to teach our teens, even when we think we're messing it up.
Now, one of the hardest things for parents is validating a teen's intense emotion when the teen's logic seems way off, completely flawed. You're like, what? Mm-hmm. So how do you coach parents to validate the feeling without necessarily agreeing with what your teen's logic is trying to say?
Yeah, it's one of the biggest questions I get from parents. Like, how do I validate when I'm not condoning the behavior? And I'd first make sure that they understand that logic is completely offline when teens have big emotions. And I often use the metaphor of you can't teach someone to swim when they're drowning. So if your teen was in the middle of the ocean and they were having trouble swimming to shore, you wouldn't be trying to teach them the correct way to doggy paddle to shore. You would be throwing them a raft and pulling them in. And the same is true of these big emotions. That is not the time to try and change their mind. It's not the time to battle logic or rationale with them. It is the time to help them calm down their emotional state. So maybe this means coaching them into taking a walk with a dog so they can cool down, or you modeling, let's take a break and come back when we're both a little bit calmer so we can talk this through. But I would caution against trying to change anyone's mind when they're in a big emotional state.
Yes, exactly. And a part of what parents, I think, do wrong so often is that we just want to fix it so badly and we're got to convince them otherwise. And that's just not the time. And we got to recognize that. In a season of life here, that everything feels like a battle. You got a teenager. This is a rough season for parents.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things I emphasize quite a lot here on The Impactful Parent is that you have to connect before you correct anything. Connection is literally the foundation of everything in your parenting. So I'd like to know, what are some micro connections that parents should look for to keep that relationship alive to help them with this?
Yeah, I talk about the hierarchy of connection, which is this idea that not everyone's going to connect in the same way. And if you feel disconnected, you can't go from 0 to 100 in 10 seconds. And so there are different ways that we can connect. One is just being in the same room together. The example I use a lot is like, my kid is on the couch watching YouTube videos. I'm in the kitchen putting groceries away. It's one open space. So we're able to exist in the same space without conflict. Maybe it's doing something at the same time, like watching a TV show, driving in the car and listening to music. And then that final level is those interactive activities, the conversations, the deeper talks, the talk about emotions, the planning for the future. But not every point of connection is going to be that deep conversation. We have to consider those layers where we're just existing at the same time together and not arguing or escalating.
Because you also agree with that philosophy, is that connection is just such an important foundation to everything. Do you have a recommendation for parents on how often or how much they need to concentrate on this connection piece?
I wouldn't say specifically connection, but I do have a ratio of 5 to 1 for 5 times to praise or notice the positive or reinforce something you see your teen doing well. For every one correction, constructive criticism, reminder of something on the to-do list. So if the only time that you're talking to your teen is to remind them to do their laundry, do their homework, get up for school on time, think about what that does to the connection and relationship. You have to really tip the scales in favor of the positive connecting conversations in order for them to feel that side of things.
Now, we often want to shield our teens from the fire of life, right? We are protective. We don't want them to have pain. So how do we determine when a challenge is healthy growing opportunity and we need to let them ride this out and learn on their own, and we need to step back as parents to a situation when this actually could be damaging?
The difference is in the danger. So we want to think about, is this something that is a learning experience for my child that will help them grow skills that will follow them into adulthood? For example, I didn't study for this test, therefore I'm going to fail this test. And that's a learning experience if I didn't do well. So if I want to do better, I have to do something differently in the future. That's not dangerous. It may be dangerous to a parent's ego if they want to have the A+ student. So we need to be mindful of, who is this for, me or them? But if there's a situation that's going to cause danger, and my teen is taking the car and they're driving recklessly or they're stealing substances or something like that, those are times that we step in because they're cause for concern or greater danger to the child, and they may not be developmentally able to think through the consequences before acting on them.
Now, in your book, you explore the pressure to perform. And I want to talk about that a little bit, because how can parents help their teens redefine success so that being okay isn't tied strictly to grades and sports and social standings? Those are all the things that teenagers care about so deeply. It is their whole world. And I think one of the mistakes that a lot of parents do is undermine or belittle and make smaller these big emotions that is the child's entire world, right? Grades, sports, social standing, I mean, blah, 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 we can go on. But that's their whole world. We as adults, in a bigger perspective, know it's not the end of everything. But wow, how can parents help their teen redefine that so that they can be okay and realize that that stuff isn't as important as they think?
Yeah, I think there's two sides to this. One side is acknowledging that it is important to them right now. So not diminishing that in a way that's invalidating the statement like, oh, this won't matter in 5 years, or, as you get older, this won't be as important to you. So those kinds of statements can make a teen feel like, what they care about doesn't matter, and they'll stop coming to parents with concerns. But from the parent side of things, I would also think about what you reinforce and what you focus on is what you're going to see more of. So if you're only, again, giving praise for the A on the paper, or the sports achievement, or things that are outcomes, then that's giving the message to your teen that those are the things to focus on. But if you're able to hone in on, oh, I saw the way that, or I heard, we were driving to the mall and I heard in the backseat how you were talking to your friend and how kind it was and how much you care about them. You're such a caring person. Then we're highlighting qualities. We're highlighting ways of being that are not focused on an outcome or achievement. We're not the sum of our accomplishments. We are, in fact, a person with values and characteristics that are valuable outside of that.
I love that so much. And I think that it's so difficult for parents to switch their mindset. And I just want to acknowledge that if they're listening to this and they're resonating, that baby steps with this process to shift, because one of the things parents do a lot is we focus on the negative. We focus on those bad behaviors and we're like, make them stop, don't do this, and we're continuously saying don't, no, can't. It's all these negative words instead of the focus on the positive. What is your child doing right? Have you mentioned that to them today? Have you pointed it out? And your comment that whatever the parent focuses on is really what is going to end up flourishing over time is gold, because it's true. It's something that is true, really. We become the inner voice of our child. And so what kind of inner voice are you giving your child? Is it this negative criticism, no, 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 or is it this positive stuff? And it's so hard to change that shift if you are naturally just kind of a negative person. And some of us are.
Which is why I think some of this parenting is also an inner job. It's how we work on ourselves and how it ripples outward to our children. Like anything in parenting, it is just a skill and it takes practice. And so that shift is going to take time as well, but it's worth it.
Do you have any recommendations for parents that need to start with baby steps? How do we shift this?
I would say number one is being mindful. So with anything, tracking behavior changes behavior. So if you notice that you are someone who nags, who is critical, who often says, don't do this, then just start keeping maybe a tally mark on the calendar or a note in your phone. Start to notice it more. And the more you notice it, then the more you can practice shifting it. It's also helpful to remember that telling someone what not to do does not change their behavior. It just makes them feel bad. So we need to be really clear. If you are saying no a lot, what's the opposite of that? What's the positive opposite of that? And how can you, once you start noticing all the no's, shift into what you want to see instead?
I like the idea of writing this down and journaling, even just keeping track somehow written instead of in your mind is going to make you so much more accountable for all of these praises that you do. Like, even if it's a check mark and you're writing it down, I complimented them on this today. I think it really does hold you quite accountable. And it's not easy to do, to write that down and take that extra step, but it could make lasting change, which is what we're looking for. I also wanted to talk about the parent who's feeling really overwhelmed right now, and because their child has these big emotions. And I have been there. Mm-hmm. I have been in the sleepless nights. I have been in the worry. I have been where my child was ruminating on the negative things, and it is a very helpless feeling for a parent. So what is it that your book offers to this parent who is just beside themselves with, I don't know what to do and I need to do something, because if I don't, this is going to get even worse. And I mean, these consequences, I don't want to we can say them out loud. We know what they are, but these could be very harmful self-harm circumstances. And so it feels urgent too. It feels, people who aren't watching the video right now, I'm like, it's in your chest. It's
all consuming.
All consuming. Yeah. So what do you say to that parent? What can the book provide for them?
Yeah, well, I will start with saying that I've been there too. I've been there as the teen in that dynamic. I've been there as the professional sitting with parents and teens, and I've been there as the parent for my own teen. And I'd say that third one is the most dysregulating of all, because when your kid is not okay, you are not okay. And so in the book, you will learn all of those stories, which give hope that if I got through this on all ends, then also there is hope for your child and for your family too. You'll learn how your teen sees these behaviors, how your teen is thinking and feeling, so you can understand them better. So you know how to validate them. You know how to regulate your own emotions. There's a lot of concrete tips for, my life feels so overwhelming because my child is struggling and I feel like I can't go on in my day because it's taking up every space in my brain. You'll learn the strategies to bring that down. And then you'll also learn how to shift your teens' behaviors. I talk about behavior strategies that work for these teens with big emotions and these impulsive and self-destructive behaviors that I've seen work again and again over 12 years in practice with thousands of families, going from hopelessness and helplessness and multiple hospitalizations to getting these emails and pictures from parents with kids graduating college and finally making it through the other side. It happens with the right structure and with the right skills, and that's what I offer in the book.
How is the book structured? Is it stories, or is it more like this is this topic and this is this topic?
It's both. So every chapter leads with a story from my life that relates to the content in that chapter. So we start with understanding the message behind these behaviors so parents can understand them. Then we go into how parents need to focus on and learn their own emotions and reactions. And then finally, from there, rebuilding relationships with teens and helping them shift their behavior. So it's a natural progression of understanding the education, understanding yourself, and understanding your teen. And then there are stories woven in each part to help you picture the material. It's not just like educational. It actually can come alive because you can see how it works.
It sounds like an amazing resource for parents, anybody who's struggling. So where can we find this book?
Anywhere you buy books online, Amazon, Barnes & Noble. You can also go to my website, youronfireitsfine.com, and you can download a free chapter there. So preview the first chapter, see how it lands for you, and then purchase it from there.
That sounds like an amazing resource for parents. And would you say, who else is this book for besides the frayed parent? Who else could read this and really benefit?
I would say any parent who has a teenager or a tween approaching the teen years and wants strategies to understand the teen brain. I have also had multiple adults tell me that they struggled in the teen years and it was like healing their inner child. So I think that a resource for anyone who knows a teenager who struggled or was a teenager who struggled, it can be really healing.
If a parent walks away from this interview with only one shift in their daily routine to become a more impactful parent with their teenager, what would it be? What would you recommend they do today?
I always like to lead with that parents go first. So knowing how you feel, knowing what your emotion is, what the urge that comes from that is, and what the behavior that you usually do from that emotion and urge is going to be helpful. So again, going back to noticing, keep that tally mark in the note in your phone. What are you doing every day that's causing things to go in a direction away from the goals you have for your teen and your relationship with them? Let's start with awareness, and that will lead to what comes next and what you need from there.
Do you think that if a parent is in this space, we need help. We're looking at the book. Hopefully we'll get the book. Could we make lasting change with the book, or do we feel like, is this more of a collaborative effort? Do we need to prepare parents for a team to come on with us and help us help our child?
To one scenario where, one thing would be helpful. The book gives all the tools that are going to be valuable for the parent to learn in order for the teen to start to heal. I would always recommend, if a teen is engaging in any kind of self-destructive behaviors, they need to be in therapy. I would also say all information is good, but implementing that information when the situation is dire, life-threatening, or difficult is difficult unless you have professional support in place. So the book is one tool. It's a lot of great information. If you can implement it on your own, I think fantastic, but I always recommend professional support in these kinds of situations.
I think that's important to just recognize, because sometimes it's so hard for us to ask for help and to get that team together. It's, whether it's financial, it's just embarrassment, it's just not being comfortable with asking for help. But when it comes to our kids, I think it's good to hear that that might be a place where we have to go. And finally, what do you think is your message to parents who are struggling right now, who need your book as a resource, but might be just hesitant? It's hard reading and being a parent and doing all the things, and especially when your life is in chaos and you are constantly not only busy, but frustrated and worried about your child. So what do you say to that parent today?
I would say now is the time. So first of all, the book is also an audiobook and it's a very easy read. I designed it that way on purpose. And I know that it's not easy to go on a coffee date with a friend and talk about how your teen is harming themselves. It's not like a coffee chat conversation. So you need support. And I say now is the time, because if these skills are not used now, if this repair is not happening now, it leads to a future where your teen may not feel like they can come to you, and your relationship may not stay strong when they're not in your house. And so if this is the time to really work towards support, change, repair, so that you have a long-lasting relationship with your teen, which I assume is important to most parents.
Thank you for listening today. Remember to subscribe and share this podcast with a friend. And don't forget, the Impactful Parenting Podcast is an extension of the Impactful Parent community. Go to the Impactful Parent website and download the free Impactful Parent app so you don't miss a parenting tip that can help you and your family. Thanks for listening today. So go to theimpactfulparent.com and see you next episode.